The introduction, the abandoned warehouse stood at the edge of town, cloaked in layers of rust and neglect. Each weathered facade was riddled with faded graffiti, remnants of a once vibrant facade that now felt lost in urban decay. Overhead, the muted light of an overcast sky filtered through the jagged openings in the corrugated metal roof, casting eerie shadows on the cracked concrete floor below. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and forgotten potential, each breath heavy with the passing whispers of untold stories. It was here, in this desolate monument of broken dreams, that a shocking discovery would soon unravel a mystery that haunted the small community for years. The building echoed with memories of the people who had come and gone, but what captured the attention of investigators was the object resting just beyond the threshold of the open door. There, nestled among scattered debris, the unmistakable outline of a charred Swedish car stood in an elusive piece of the puzzle, waiting for its story to be told. Local authorities had long been aware of the dark undercurrents swirling around the town, where rumors of illicit dealings and shadows of violence brewed beneath the surface. The once thriving port city, known for its colorful history, had morphed into a stage for secrets kept behind closed doors. As morning light barely pierced the heavy clouds above, this warehouse would soon become the center of a complex web of deceit, a brutal crime, and a search for justice that would lead investigators deep into the veins of the town. The victim, her name was Elena Ramos, a name that now echoed in the hearts of those who knew her best. At just 26 years old, she had become a familiar face in the neighborhood, working at a local cafe where the rich aroma of roasted coffee intertwined with laughter and conversation. As a barista, she poured more than just espresso. She poured warmth into the lives of her customers, always remembering their usual orders and providing genuine smile. Elena was often seen cycling down the avenues, her spirited laughter floating through the air like music. Yet, beneath that cheerful exterior, she bore the weight of a demanding past she rarely shared. Raised in a single-parent household, she became accustomed to hardship, a fire ignited in her soul to rise above the challenges life hurled her way. Her disappearance, which marked the beginning of a somber chapter in the community, sent tremors of shock through the town. Friends grew anxious when a day turned to two without a word. Within a week, a search party gathered, brimming with concerned faces. Posters emblazoned with her image plastered across fences and shop windows. Desperation hung thick in the air as hope began to dwindle with each passing day, leaving family and friends clinging to memories of love and laughter. When her body was discovered not far from the warehouse, the realities that followed would be as haunting as the night itself. With her tragic end, Elena's vibrant presence was forcibly snuffed out, leaving behind a void too heavy for anyone to bear, setting in motion a series of events that would unravel the fabric of the town she knew and loved. The crime scene under the dim light of an early morning. Detectives from the local police department arrived at the warehouse where Elena's body lay. The tension in the air was palpable as a heavy silence enveloped the scene. The cacophony of bustling city life faded away, replaced by the haunting reality of loss and the unsettling task ahead. Elena's lifeless form was discovered in a secluded corner, partially hidden beneath a tattered tarp. The disarray of the warehouse created a chilling contrast to the youthful brightness she had carried into each day. Forensic teams moved cautiously around the area, their instruments clicking and whirring softly as they documented every inch of the crime scene. The concrete floor bore the scars of neglect, but now it held unspoken truths waiting to be uncovered. As investigators scoured the premises, their eyes zeroed in on a series of faint tire tracks leading to the entrance of the warehouse. The tracks were recent, etched in the muda trace of the final moments before Elena was taken from the work. Among the shadows of forgotten crates lay a discarded cell phone, cracked but intact. It would offer breadcrumbs, perhaps revealing the final contact she made before her life was tragically snuffed out. Flashlights flickered over walls adorned with veils of peeling paint, illuminating phrases scrawled by ghostly hands, some ominous, hinting at a darker past within these walls. A stoic atmosphere bound the detectives together as they moved with purpose, the echoes of their whispered theories filling the air with possibilities. Each clue would be a lifeline, leading them closer to the truth that lay buried beneath Elena's untimely demise. A haunting reminder that darkness often lurked just beyond the light. The early investigation in the days following Elena's discovery, the small police precinct transformed into a hive of activity. Detectives gathered around a sprawling bulletin board, its surface now marred by photographs of Elena, mugshots of known offenders, and a detailed timeline of her last days. The room buzzed with a sense of urgency, as if every new piece of information could unlock the mystery of her death and restore peace to a rattled community. Detective Mark Hargrove, a seasoned investigator with a penchant for uncovering the truth, led the charge. He immersed himself in Elena's life, combing through her social media profiles, speaking to friends and family all in a desperate bid to stitch together the fabric of her existence. Each interview peeled back layers of her daily routine, from her work shifts at the cafe to cherished evenings spent reading at the park. But now, in light of her tragic ending, her past became a puzzle filled with fragments that did not seem to fit, and Hargrove meticulously noted every description, every fleeting mention of tension. As discerning whispers of potential suspects began to bubble up from the community, the investigation took on a darker tone. A local named Sam, seen lingering near the cafe where Elena worked, emerged as a person of interest. His erratic behavior, paired with a troubled past, cast a shadow that haunted every interaction he had with the townsfolk. But the detectives knew all too well that prejudice could cloud judgment. So they proceeded cautiously, balancing their findings against every shred of evidence they could muster. As they diligently worked through the information, the precinct remained alive with the hope that their tireless efforts would illuminate a path to justice. But as they delved deeper into the investigation, they were acutely aware that every moment spent in pursuit of answers weighed heavily in the hearts of those left behind. The dead ends days turned into weeks, each one blending into the next as the investigation trudged along, weighed down by a collection of dead ends and frustrating setbacks. The detectives, once driven by the adrenaline of discovery, found their resolve waning as the layers of the case grew thicker and more convoluted. In dim conference rooms and sterile interrogation spaces, they sifted through mountains of information, each new lead flickering to life only to fizzle under scrutiny. Witnesses' accounts, shaky and inconsistent, painted a blurry picture of the last hours in Elena's life. Friends reported seeing her with various people, names swirling like autumn leaves caught in a windstorm moan, of whom could be pinned down in connection to the grim reality of her death. The police followed numerous leads that led them through the town's seedy underbelly. Sam, once a beacon of suspicious activity, turned out to have an alibi that checked out his whereabouts, corroborated by security footage from a corner store. Out of options, Hargrove pressed harder into Elena's past, reaching out to her acquaintances and acquaintances of acquaintances, unearthing whispers of catty rivalries and jealous hearts. Yet, as days passed, hope began to wane, eclipsed by a mounting fear that they were no closer to justice. Frustration simmered within the precinct, the air thick with unspoken worries. Fresh coffee burnt on forgotten countertops as the weight of uncertainty bore down on every detective. Questions began to haunt them. Was it a stranger who took Elena, or was it someone she trusted? The shadows of doubt lingered, echoing in the silence between them. They knew the clock was ticking, but each tick seemed to mock their inability to bring clarity to the grief-stricken community they had promised to serve. A break in the case just as the investigation threatened to slip into oblivion. A breakthrough emerged, a fleeting glimmer of hope that rekindled the determination in the precinct. One afternoon, a uniformed officer stumbled upon a forgotten detail. A local security company had captured footage of a vehicle matching the description of a Swedish car, parked near the warehouse on the night of Elena's disappearance. The revelation sent ripples of excitement through the station, electrifying the weary detectives. Hargrove gathered his team, their eyes brightening as he played the grainy footage on a flickering monitor. The video depicted a dark Swedish sedan idling quietly at the edge of the lot, just out of the primary passage. Despite the dimness, the officers focused intently, searching for any trace of the individual exiting the vehicle. As the video played out, they noted the time-stamp first before Elena was reported missing. Adrenaline pulsed through the precinct, a lifeline that reinvigorated their effort. They quickly traced the car's license plate back to a local resident named Mark Colby, a name that drew murmurs from several officers present. Colby wasn't just any resident. He had a history, multiple arrests for low-level offenses, a man teetering on the precipice of further trouble. In the days that followed, the detectives scrutinized Colby's past and future, piecing together connections that led them back to Elena. Colby had been a regular at her cafe, lingering longer each day, gradually morphing from a benign patron into a troubling presence. Witnesses recalled uncomfortable encounters between the two that had left Elena on edge of a budding obsession that began to spell trouble. Now, armed with new information, the detectives had a renewed sense of purpose. They prepared to confront Colby, knowing that they stood at the precipice of plunging deeper into a menacing undercurrent that could lead them to the heartless truth hidden beneath the town's facade. The suspect, the tension in the precinct, was palpable as detectives prepared to confront Mark Colby. Photographs of him adorned the walls of the conference room, a stark reminder of the potential darkness that lurked beneath the surface of his average demeanor. They gathered all the details available: his history, his frequent visits to the cafe, and the unsettling interactions with Elena. In the dim light of the room, shadows cast by the flickering overhead lamps seemed to mirror the uncertainty hanging over them. Colby's home was a modest structure on the outskirts of town, nestled among labyrinthine streets crowded with the detritus of urban life. As Hargrove and his team approached, they felt the weight of their resolve transform into something heavy. A uniformed officer knocked, signaling the moment I'd been both anticipating and dreading. Colby answered the door, his demeanor calm, almost schooled in indifference. His shock at their visit felt rehearsed, a facade masking the reality that festered just below his surface. He was polite but evasive, visibly uncomfortable when agents mentioned Elena's name. Time stretched thin as they asked him about his movements on the night she went missing. Each question was met with measured responses, a casualness that fell short of genuine belief. While he maintained eye contact, details soon began to clash, creating fractures in his story. Hargrove noted the slight tremor in his hands, a darting gaze that hinted at untruths. The detective studied the tension that seeped into Colby's voice, recognizing the breadcrumbs of deception. When they pressed further about his known obsession with Elena, the interrogative heat intensified, and cracks in his polished surface began to show. Feeling the weight of his situation, Colby suddenly shifted, lashing out in denial, his emotional facade crumbling. It became apparent that beneath his polite exterior lay an individual bubbling with fear, and perhaps something more sinister. The detectives knew they were closing in, fueled not only by the evidence but by the instinct that told them they were speaking to a man with a dark secret. The courtroom was an arena of palpable tension as the trial of Mark Colby commenced, a critical point in the long, harrowing journey to justice for Elena Ramos. The sun hung low in the sky, sending slanted rays through the tall windows of the courthouse, where friends and family filled the pews, hoping for answers amidst the stark reality of law. The air was laced with a mix of anticipation and dread as whispers rippled through the Ruma community, eager to witness the reckoning of a tragic fate. Prosecutors presented their case methodically, detailing the timeline that led to Elena's disappearance, weaving in the evidence gathered by the detectives. Security footage showcased Colby's car near the warehouse. Testimony linked him to unsettling interactions with Elena, and forensic evidence sealed the narrative of an obsession turned violent. Each word felt like a weight on the hearts of those who knew her, drawing them into a shared sorrow as they relived her final moments. Colby's defense attorney countered fiercely, aiming to unravel the prosecution's threadbare case, strategically targeting inconsistencies. During the cross-examination, Colby's cool demeanor resurfaced, a stark contrast to the Gaian community's growing outrage. He enshrouded himself in the cloak of denial, issuing fervent claims of innocence, attempting to cast shadows of doubt over every witness. As days passed, the tension mounted. The jury, handpicked from the community, absorbed the emotional weight of the testimonies. With every witness that took the stand, Elena's vibrant spirit flickered, painted vivid in the memories shared by those who loved her. As the closing arguments drew near, Hargrove sat among the audience, feeling every ounce of tension course through him. He knew that the jury's decision would ripple far beyond this courtroom. Finally, the day arrived for the jury to deliberate, a moment suspended in time, echoing with uncertainty. As the clock ticked down, hope still flickered amid the darkness, the faint light of justice hanging delicately in the air, as everyone waited for words that could redefine a community brought to its knees. The aftermath in the weeks following the trial's conclusion, a somber shroud enveloped the community as the gavel's final thud echoed in their hearts. Mark Colby was convicted of second-degree murder, a verdict that brought mixed emotions, a sense of justice entwined with the irreversible loss of a bright soul. As the news reverberated through the town, reactions were divided. Some felt closure, while others wrestled with lingering questions of why, how, and could more have been done. The cafe where Elena once worked now bore her memory as a tribute to a life stolen too soon. Friends and family adorned walls with photographs, images, capturing lively moments filled with laughter. Vibrant colors disrupted only by the heavy weight of grief, intertwined with the celebration of her life. Regulars poured in to share stories about her warmth, a lingering presence that temporarily filled the void left behind. As time wore on, those within the community sought to reclaim their sense of safety and belonging against the backdrop of what had transpired. Candlelight vigils illuminated the streets every month on the day of her death, each flickering flame representing hope for healing and a collective promise to not let Elena's memory fade into obscurity. But for the detectives involved, the case marked a chapter that proved harder to close. Each found themselves haunted by the echoes of the investigation, questions unanswered. The victims of violence still hidden in so Hargrove in particular embarked on a mission to advocate for stronger protective measures for at-risk individuals, establishing outreach programs in memory of Elena, hoping to provide the support that might have altered her destiny. As the town began to heal, the complexity of grief intertwined with hope lingered, reminding them that even amid darkness, resilience emerged. The weight of loss became a shared bond, transforming into a force that drove the community to stand together, vowing that Elena's story would not just be one of tragedy, but also of strength and united drive that would shape their collective future. Reflection. As time passed, the weight of Elena's memory transformed into a source of strength for those who loved her. In quiet moments of reflection, friends and family would gather not only to mourn, but to celebrate the vibrant spirit she had brought into their lives. In a world often overshadowed by grief, these moments became sanctuaries of resilience and hope, a balm for the wounds of loss. Hargrove often returned to the cafe, sitting by the window where he first saw Elena laughing with friends. He would sip coffee as he observed patrons sharing stories, the ambience alive with warmth. The cafe buzzed with life, a stark contrast to the darkness of the warehouse where everything had changed. It served as a reminder of what had been lost and what remained, a commitment to each other and a duty to ensure that no one else would suffer the same fate as Elena. The town had learned painful lessons through this tragedy, crafting a legacy from sorrow. Support networks began to flourish, giving voices to potential victims and advocating for those too afraid to speak. Memories of Elena remained a guiding light in the fight against violence, serving as a renewed motivation to foster a safer world. In every candlelit vigil, every gathering in her memory, the community solidified its promise to stay vigilant against the darkness that had once invaded their lives. As they stood together, united in memory and hope, they vowed to transform their sorrow into a force for good, ensuring that Elena's story would ripple throughout their lives, igniting courage and resilience in generations to come.